Earlier this year, the federal government announced one of the largest funding packages in Australian history for the resources sector. The Resourcing Australia's Prosperity, or RAP package, is a 35-year, $3.4 billion package dreamt up by Geoscience Australia's finest. Unfortunately, Geoscience Australia's Minerals Chief, Andrew Heap, couldn't be with us today. So our final keynote to round out this session is by Dr. David Robinson. David is the branch head of the Basin's branch at Geoscience Australia. Please welcome David to the podium to tell us more about Resourcing Australia's Prosperity.
Thank you, Michelle, and thanks to GSWA for inviting us to present today. I do pass on Andrew's apologies that he couldn't be here himself, but certainly it's my luck that he couldn't, because I always enjoy Perth, and I think today and the GSWA Open Day is one of the highlights of the geoscience calendar in Australia, indeed. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the country that we're meeting on today, and in particular the First Nations custodians, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar country. I'd extend that acknowledgement to the First Nations custodians across all of Australia's onshore and offshore jurisdiction where Geoscience Australia works, and acknowledge the great wisdom and understanding that they have of the country that we are able to leverage off and that we benefit from in all the work that we do. I think I don't need to dwell on this slide, but there are a number of challenges that we are facing as a country and indeed as a global community that are driving significant changes specifically for the resources sector. And we have four of the main ones up there, so net zero targets, various world events, geopolitics, and also restricted supply chains of a number of very important resources. For these reasons, the federal government announced the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity program as part of its larger Future Made in Australia initiative at the budget in May this year. In doing so, they've committed to a 35-year program of pre-competitive geoscience to support the resources sector to transition and tackle some of these challenges, and in particular, to support the resources sector to help find the resources that we need to make that net zero transition, to position Australia as a trade partner and a global leader in the renewable energy space. The RAP program will run for 35 years and will have four components. At the top of this triangle you see here is Australia-wide geoscience data. So Geoscience Australia will continue to collect and assemble national data sets, and I'll say a little bit more about this in future slides, and of course in partnership with all of the state and territory geological surveys. We have been tasked through this program down in the bottom right corner to undertake a number of national scale resource assessments. So in particular, to build national mineral potential maps for all 36 of Australia's critical minerals and strategic materials, to start building an understanding at the national scale of potential for carbon capture and storage, both onshore and offshore, and for hydrogen projects, and to continue our work in trying to understand groundwater systems at regional and national scale, and in particular to continue the work where we're trying to understand the 42 major hydrogeological provinces in the country. So where do we want to be at the end of this program? You can see the main reasons that the government brought this forward in front of you here. So I've said already, it's about that transition of the resources sector to find the resources necessary for net zero, but in particular, the work that we do at Geoscience Australia and in partnership with the state and territory geological surveys to speed up the process. So in particular, to help identify the regions that have the highest potential to move into for exploration in the first place, to increase the likelihood that that exploration leads to discovery and increase the speed at which those discoveries can lead to production. If we are going to be successful in the net zero transition, it is essential that we find our resources that we need faster, and we lead towards development faster. So a part of that is finding them, but in addition, it's about building better understanding of other ancillary data sets that can support things like baseline understanding of environmental conditions, environmental social governance aspects, so that we can have the social licence to be able to operate these projects and to move them forward quickly. The federal government has also asked us to think about the way that we work with First Nations people and to strive towards better empowerment, both economic and environmental empowerment of First Nations people. Now, this is a massive feat for us when you consider that we work across the entire country, but one that we're very excited to be taking on, and certainly something where we feel we still have quite a lot to learn. Ostensively, our work is about delivering that pre-competitive geoscience to inform evidence-based decision-making. The final component on the slide there is about improved data delivery, so looking at all of our systems to improve the way that we deliver data. And a component of that is also about thinking about different ways of making some of that data more tractable to the non-technical expert. Traditionally, our key stakeholders have been the technical experts in the exploration arms of resource companies, but more and more we're being expected to be able to deliver information that helps inform community decision making. So again, this is another challenge that we face, and what we're very lucky to have here is 35 years of continued funding, which gives us a longer time frame to think about our planning and to build towards things, but a lot of what we need to deliver can't wait that long either. I think I've largely covered the main points of what sits in this slide, particularly around that community engagement. But what I did want to let you all know, where we have been consulting widely since the government announcement in May. We've been working across the country with a whole range of stakeholders to try to understand different perspectives of what we could do with the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity Program. We've gathered most of that information now. There is still a little bit more consultation to do, but we're fine-tuning and pulling together a 10-year plan that we're hoping the Federal Government Resource Minister will launch early next year. So that 10-year roadmap will set out what we're looking to achieve over that 10-year time frame. But what I can tell you is that we will continue to work on these national-wide geoscience data sets. In many cases, we'll acquire new data. In other cases, we'll be bringing that in from other sources. And then in some of these cases, it's about combining different data sets to deliver a map, a unique value-added map. In particular on this one, but on all of these remaining slides, I'd really like to acknowledge again that partnership with the State and Territory Geological Surveys. We could not do this work without that partnership, and in particular GSWA are very active in this space as well, and it's because we can work so well together that we are able to start bringing these things together at a statewide scale in the case of GSWA, and then the national scale in the work that we do. I mentioned earlier the next step of that chain is to build these national resource assessments, so in particular the work we will do around the 36 critical minerals and strategic materials. We will continue to look at other mineral commodities that are important as well. A nuance, if you like, in the way we work here with the minerals aspect of these national mapping is traditionally what we've done is built resource potential maps or mineral potential maps for a mineral system. What we're looking at flipping now is to build them for the minerals themselves. So we have to think about all the different ways an individual mineral can form and pull it together to build one of these maps for an individual mineral, and then ultimately for the critical minerals as well. And we'll do this kind of work for the groundwater systems, for the carbon capture and storage potential, and hydrogen as well. In addition to those two national scale products. We do have the ability to work at a regional scale in 12 deep dives as well. So over the course of 35 years, we will go into 12 different regions. Some of you may be familiar with the work that we did between Tennant Creek and Mount Isa. That's an example of a deep dive where we will go in and do a lot more data acquisition at higher density, and in some cases different forms of data collection. So for example, active seismic lines in those regions and drilling when it makes sense to do so. Those 12 deep dives will all be onshore. I can say the first two, we do know what the first two are. So they are in the Darling-Dalamirian region and in the Birrindudu region, and in the sort of northeast of this state and northwest of Northern Territory. I'm going to switch tacks just a little bit here, just for a short while, because whilst the Resourcing Australia's Prosperity program is by far our most significant program looking out into the future, there are a couple of other aspects of our work that I think are particularly relevant to this audience as well. What you can see here is a map of known critical mineral discoveries, if you like, in Australia. Of the 470 or so of these points on the map, less than a quarter of them are currently being developed, and that we think is a challenge in itself. So some of the work we're doing is starting to think about how we might be able to advance the development of those, particularly noting that for many of these discoveries, I'm sure this audience is well aware, many of them, the critical minerals are actually byproducts of other minerals that are developed and sitting in tailings at the moment. And one of the things we want to do is work with industry to support a better understanding of what some of those byproducts are, and indeed with other players to see how we can look at bringing forward more of those into development. So we are part of the Critical Minerals Research and Development Hub. Other players in that include the CSIRO and ANSTO, Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation. So collectively at the federal government level, we're working together to better understand particularly those chemical associations between various critical minerals, whether they're the rare earth elements or germanium or whichever one it is, how it's associating with other mineral systems. And of course, that's a key factor for us in bringing forward the maps that I mentioned earlier. So this work with the Research and Development Fund, Hub rather, has actually 4 streams. You can see the 4 of them up there on the screen. So I won't read them out in each 4 of them, but I'll allow you to have a little bit of a look at them. But in particular, our interest is around that geochemistry component of that work. Another piece of this work, which is related, it's also critical minerals focused, is the Critical Minerals Mapping Initiative, which is a partnership between Geoscience Australia, the United States Geological Survey, and the Geological Survey of Canada. Again, along those themes of trying to understand the chemical associations of critical minerals with other mineral systems. And one of the things that was recently updated was an online database. And you can see some pictures of that database here. And what this database hosts is over 25,000 multi-element geochemical analyses of ores across those 3 countries, predominantly across those 3 countries. But where possible, we're pulling in data from other countries as well. So collectively, the 3 countries of the US, Australia and Canada are starting to really build out that information. The database also includes an opportunity for anyone to log on if you've done your own geochemical analysis and actually put your data into this system as well. And so over time, if we continue to build this out, we're going to have that much better statistical understanding of how the things we're looking for the future are associating with the things that we're used to finding or that are perhaps more economical to develop in their own right as well. So I'd like to just close my presentation today again by thanking the Geological Survey of Western Australia for the opportunity to present. There's a link up there online to our portal. All of our data and products we make readily available and freely available online, and I'm around all day if anybody would like to ask any questions, but thank you.